Hi, welcome to EGIA Contractor University. I'm Gary Ellicks. Welcome. I'm going to take you through the demo today for the HVAC Best Practices site and the technology that we've built for plumbing, electrical, and all the various contracting businesses. So today what we're going to do is just spend some time and go over the technology. And as always, if you have questions, you'll see you can certainly send an email in and we'll be happy to respond. And the purpose of this entire technology is all about a learning system for you as a contractor to develop 20% pre-tax profits or better. And what we've done is we've broken this down into best practices. There's essentially a large number of them, but not all contractors are the same. The evolution of a contracting business, that's a startup is different than somebody who's been in the business for 10 years or somebody that may already have built a successful business and is just looking for some very specific items that they want to deal with. So the tool doesn't care. In other words, the system is built to say, we love you if you're a startup. We love you if you're just doing service technician training. We love you if you've got a very sophisticated business and just looking for some marketing ideas. So let me take you around the site, just familiarize you with the process. So inside of the site, there's always going to be a help screen video here. And so this particular video will say, hey, this is how we use the site. When you get into the pages, each individual page will have a help video that will explain what's going on that particular page. You'll also notice in the center, there's a search library by keyword. So one of the things that we did is we wanted to build Google for HVAC, if you will. So when you type in a particular idea, so we could type in the word benchmarks, you begin to see I've typed BE and there's a predictive search pattern just like Google. And so all the keywords that are established inside of the database for all the content, the videos, the training, the materials, the support, all of that will essentially arrive at a place for you if you clicked go. So we'll do that in a bit. I just want to give you the navigation points right now. You'll also notice that there are popular search terms. This is going to follow you individually as a customer of EGIA, Contractor University. Whatever you've searched for, whatever your team has searched for as a popular item, it's going to create that inside of your own blueprint. So today, right now, there's vision, culture, core values, benchmarks, metrics, and KPIs because that's what we've been playing with in order to go ahead and shoot this particular demo. So over time, the most popular items that you've searched for will be right there, so you can literally click on that particular item and go. You'll also notice that just slightly below this, there is a set of navigation tabs, which is Training Home. You'll notice the Search Library, which is the entire library itself presenting itself to you. There's a business evaluation tool, and I think this is one of the most important things we can talk about in this demo. That's really going to be the starting point for a lot of companies, and when we dive into that and take a deeper dive, you'll see there's a series of questions and you answer them, and there's a member report and a tracking system for progress. And essentially what it is you just take an honest dialogue about what you're doing with your company. If you answer, hey, I'm not really doing that, the database is going to feed you a training system to support the development of that idea inside of your company. And then you'll also see an Ask the Expert navigation tab. So there's an e-consulting feature as part of the EGIA platform. Anytime you want to ask a question, all you really have to do is click on Ask the Expert, and that's going to show up. There'll be a tab that will show up, and you have to type in your question, put your email in there, and send that question in, and somebody is going to get back to you specifically with an answer. And then there's a member progress report. So we'll go ahead and scroll through each one of these individually as we move down, but as we just work through the navigation, you're always going to see that there's a core set of principles, meaning that whether you're a plumbing company, an electrical company, an HVAC company, a painting business, or if you're in the roofing trades, windows and doors, leadership, company planning, accounting, there's some basic fundamentals of contracting that exist. And so accounting doesn't change whether or not we're doing electrical or whether we're doing HVAC and so forth. So these are what we call the core principles. And the core principles exist so that no matter whether you filter your business or not, meaning if you look just to the right here where it says click to filter your industry verticals, if you clicked on this plumbing tab or electrical tab, essentially all the HVAC stuff, all the roofing stuff, anything that's not directly related to plumbing will go away. If you click on electrical, all of that database will go away. What will be left will be the core principles and the specific items in that particular trade. So as EGIA expands into other training aspects of other verticals, what you're going to see is you're going to see other vertical tabs there in the navigation tool. And so we don't want to confuse people by having content that's HVAC related for companies that are strictly plumbing and vice versa. Now, if you're a blended business and you have all those things, then the site really exists with everything in mind. In other words, in totality, so there would be no need to filter. So the filter is really a convenience tool, for the training purposes to make sure that you are focused on what items that are interesting to your particular business. So with that in mind, we've got lots of different core principles. We've got the leadership function. We've got the company planning. And so as you scroll down, there's basically about 12 to 15 principles. And we may edit this over time, especially as we get customer feedback. But things like financial structure, pricing, marketing, and lead generation, these are consistent no matter where you are in any business. And so one of the things we're going to do is there's a deep dive inside of each one of these. And I'll show you that as we demo the site. So with that in mind, I'd just like to make sure that you understand that no matter what happens, there's really 3 ways to use this site or technology. The first one is you just know what you want. You come here and you decide you want to go ahead and search. So you're going to type in the word benchmarks, and I'll go ahead and hit benchmarks and hit go. And you'll notice, because it's a predictive system, what it does is it's going to pull up all the information on the site that are existing relative to those benchmarks. So you'll see 3 different types of areas of content. You're always going to see a video, and that video itself will be an explanatory video about this is the concept and this is how it works. These are the things you need to be aware of. The nuances, the specialty items that are not going to be written in an article, and everybody learns differently. And so you may want to use those videos to teach your service technicians or to teach your financial people. So it's heavy content, it's very specific, and obviously you can pause those videos at will. And so part of that discussion is then, well, what about the rest of the support? So there's always going to be a series of articles. So I'll scroll down here, and so there's the video. You'll see some documents. And those documents now look like service department metrics, the use of metrics in a company, benchmarks, service department metrics, and so forth. So the articles are the description of what the concept actually is. And very important to interpret this, it's a step-by-step-by-step process in the articles. The articles are written to say, almost action plan format. Here's all the stuff, here's what we need to know, and then here's how you actually put this in place in your business. One of the frustrations that we've had in our own businesses is, we're trying to get other people to finish the work so that we actually don't have to do everything and have the adult daycare process. Given that framework, everything that's built inside of this system is designed for you to be able to support your team and build a company that isn't just reliant on you, because that's part of how you build an overall company that can be 20% pre-tax and that you don't have to have 75 hats doing the work. So that's really the concept. And then you'll see a third level of content, which is always present, and these are the actual tools to implement. So one of the things that's always frustrated me as I was growing up in the contracting trade is I would go to a workshop or I would go to a training event, and the material was essentially being sold to me after the event. So the idea was being presented, and I loved that, and it was good learning, but then I had to go buy the stuff afterwards, and I felt like, well, part of the training that I was paying for was the ability to actually get the work done. So what we've tried to do is take the creative work and the hard work that contractors don't have time and hours to create, and we've built these tools. So all the KPIs are already done for you. Essentially, they're already mapped out. You could certainly adjust those, and you can certainly manage those. But things like a dashboard and things like understanding how to train, all the materials are already pre-done, and really all you have to do is decide what the important topic is for you to use. So remember where we are. We actually did a search, and the search brought us to this place, and that's one way to interface with the site. The second way to interface with the site, I'm going to go ahead and go back to Training Home. This brings us back to the home page. The second way to interface is always going to be just to click on one of these particular icons. So if leadership happens to be a topic that I want to be interested in, or maybe I have a service manager that I would like to train and they need to improve themselves on leadership, what you're going to click on when you click on the leadership button is it's going to bring you into a series of leadership best practices. So we're taking the deep dive inside of the leadership platform now. So we're right inside of that core principle, but you can see that there's about, maybe 10 very specific items that are individual inside of the leadership concept. So the first one is, hey, how do I develop a plan? If I'm the leader of the free world, how do I do this? If I'm the service department manager, how do I do this? Developing a vision, developing values, developing culture, goal-setting processes. So you can pick any one of these, and so right now we'll just go ahead and pick developing a vision. It's just a discussion that we'll have for the demo. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring you into the videos. The business process questions are also present here. Now that's the business evaluator. You don't have to touch that if you don't want to. But the video is right there, and then there's always a support structure. So these three things will always be present no matter what. And that's a navigation system. And so there's a video. And that's a video on how to develop a vision in a company, how to involve your people, considerations to think about, areas of how you get people to discuss, those types of things, leadership in general. And then you're going to see that there's actually a developing a vision for a company document. So again, the documentation always follows step-by-step how-to, and then you'll see there's a sample right there. So the purpose of this discussion is to say that for each best practice, which in this case is developing a vision, every single one of those has three sections, right? We've got a video, we've got documentation, this is an article, and then we've got the actual examples tools. So you have flat rate systems, you have financial statements, you have budgets, you have tech training, you have service operations materials, you have service agreements, you have every single document and every single platform that you need to run a successful business that is organized in a fashion for you to be able to do that on a deep dive. So remember where we were. We were in leadership, so I'm going to go ahead and click back on the leadership function. The site's going to take me back exactly to those areas. We had 10 best practices inside of that system. So depending on what my interest is, this is the second way that you interface with the site. So the first way was search. I want something very specific. I'm going to type in keywords. It's Google for HVAC, plumbing, electrical, bug, pest control, you name it, painting, roofing. Or I can interface by saying, let's jump in and go into the actual section of the actual training homepage, which in this case was leadership. So you can do that for any one of these areas. Okay? So if you're interested in accounting, you can take a deep dive into accounting, and I'll just go ahead and click on accounting and show you. So inside of accounting, there's income statement, profit and loss, there's cash flow, there's balance sheet, there's accounting tests. So there's always going to be that same level of video, documentation, and then template support. So the third way that we interface with the site is what we call this business evaluation tool. Now the business evaluation tool is a bit of a different animal than what we've talked about so far. The business evaluation tool, which I'm going to go ahead and click on, is a series of questions that you are essentially responsible as your own personal responsibility for the development of your company to ask and answer the questions. So the questions are there, they're embedded. So if you look here, it's done by section. So leadership questions are present. So we were fooling around with the leadership section there in the content side. Well, right here, if you want to answer questions, you just click Edit Answers, and up will come a series of questions. Does the company understand the need to have a written and communicated operating plan? Now, I've already checked this. I've checked yes, but I need improvement. So there's three status layers here. Yes, I'm executing it well. I don't really need any issues. I mean, I'm good. I feel great about where I'm at with my company, and you'll notice that there's a nice little smiley face there, and the smiley face says, you're good. The database is going to ignore this question for you from now on, meaning that you've said you're satisfied with what's going on in your business. No data will find its way to your tools. So if I click yes, I'm doing it, but I need some improvement, the next phase of that question for you to build a learning plan for your company is to be able to click, well, is it a must-do item, which is always going to be a red, or a need-to-do item, which is, I think it's pretty important, but it's not immediate. It's not an immediate priority to get me to my 20% profit or improve my business. Or it's a little bit important. I want it on my list, but it's not something that I need to do. It's not a sense of urgency item. So these are going to be able to be saved. And what's going to happen is there is content that you're looking at right now inside of this discussion. And this content is going to populate itself based on how you've answered the question. Meaning that if you've said, hey, I think I need to do some work in this area, you're going to get the leadership content that supports the answer to that question. So there's a whole bunch of questions on here, and you can ask and answer as few or as many as you want. They are in order of priority, meaning that leadership is probably the most important part of running a company. A lot of business owners may think that we're doing okay in leadership, and they may avoid that section, and that's fine. There's no prerequisite for you to say, well, I have to do this or I don't have to do this. But if you did, and you answered it the way I did in this particular demo, you would get Leadership Developing Operating Plan, you would get videos on the manual, the training process, why I need leadership improvement to be more successful, and so forth. So as you scroll down, you'll see that there's multiple questions, and because I've already answered some of those questions there and said, no, I'm not doing this at all, you can see it's in yellow, but I need to do it, you're going to see that there are items that are assigned inside of this discussion right here that are going to be dropped in underneath the question for you as a business owner to come back to and say, I need to go ahead and learn this. So the cool part about this is once you save it, which if we go down here, you can save those changes, which means your database will become unique to you. It will become unique to your employee if you want. Whatever training plan that you've now developed because you've asked questions, what we call situational analysis questions about your business. If you save that, then it will always be present. When you come back, you can use your learning plan through the business evaluation system in this regard. So the interesting part about this is those links now are obviously live. So I can click on developing an income statement and assume I saved it and I come back to it, I click on that, and I'm learning maybe at 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday or whatever when I have some free time, and the data and the information that's specific to learning about that topic is now present and accounted for inside. That database will only change if you go back and change the answer to the question, meaning if I say, okay, great, I've studied the income statement and now I've become, the master Jedi of the universe here and I'm good at income statements now and I understand it, I can go back and change it and say, yes, I'm executing it well, and that will now drop off of your learning plan. So this is a very specific process, the Business Evaluator. So again, there's 3 ways to interface with the site: the search box, the training system, which is the search library, or the business evaluation tool. So I'm going to click on the Ask the Expert function as well. So anytime that you have a question, EGIA has set it up so that all of the educators that are in the platform, and there's essentially right now between 12 and 15 team members that are part of that. Weldon Long is certainly a part of that. I'm a part of that. A whole bunch of people. What you can do is you just type in your name, your information, your company address, and what your question is. And so when you get that in and you send that, you hit submit, and what's going to happen is that question is going to find its way into the EGIA world. The educators that are responsible for the content in that particular question are going to see that, and they're going to respond. So the promissory note for the response time is 24 hours. We've been running much ahead of that, but I think when we get lots and lots of members, the 24-hour response time is pretty reasonable. So you might get a response that directs you to content. You might get a response that directs you to some information. Whatever questions that you ask, these are business, leadership, management. They're business related. This is not a technical site, so this is not a, how do I fix flame rectification type stuff. You might be able to get an answer from some people that are technically savvy, but there's nobody here in the education system that's really built to do that. So remember, this is business, leadership, and organization relative to essentially driving the training process around developing a company. So that is a process then, and so I've just brought you back to the home page again, and you'll notice that that navigation tab is there. So we've done the Ask the Expert, we've done the business evaluation system. What we haven't done is the member progress report. So the member progress report tracks what's actually happening to you and your usage on the tool. So if you look at this, what it says is that 90.72% of the questions that are inside of the database have gone unanswered because I did not answer those in the demo. I only answered the leadership questions. But if you went through all the questions, it would let you have a list and it would tell you how many are there. 55% of my questions were yes, 44% are no, and then over here to the left, I've got the downloaded files and I've watched 30 videos. So for you as a business owner, if you want a service manager or if you want somebody that's involved in your business to actually be engaged in learning about service management or maybe flat rate or technician sales process, we want to sell more service agreements, you can assign the responsibility here, and so as a business owner you can see the videos that they've watched, and you can also track and see what questions that they've done and what they haven't done. So that's a pretty interesting platform in the sense that you want to develop people and you want them to learn how to do the work, so this is a method for not only you to learn but also for them inside of your organization to learn. So I think one of the things that we should also reinforce is that anytime you have a question or whatever, there's a chat support function, so you can ask that question, ask the consultant, get you directly to the Ask the Expert system. So as we roll through this discussion, I'm just going to take you into, for example, the sales process side. So this is complementary to Weldon's HVAC Sales Academy. You'll notice that there's a whole bunch of different things like hiring a salesperson, or how do I actually set up my job management forms. So if we wanted to go into hiring the salesperson and we wanted to look at the documents, you'll see that there is a set of materials there for hiring a salesperson in the interview process. How do you want to do that, the attributes. So as a tool, one of the things that we have in place is essentially a series of best practices that cover up all the aspects of contracting. There's about 350 to 400 little best practices in this site. That may sound or get overwhelming, but I think the main thing that you want to take away from this particular demo is that you don't have to interface with any one or all 350 of those. It's your choice. You can just search. You can decide to write yourself a business plan using the business evaluation system. That's what it's designed to do, is to prioritize and take you step by step by step through each question, and then it will move the database in underneath so you can go through and put off the execution one by one. Or you can simply go to a topic that's interesting to you, which I did for sales, and maybe you've got Weldon Sales Academy system down to a science, and you're so good right now you could teach those classes. But maybe you're not so great, at the customer service side or human resources. Maybe we'll click on human resources. So if we click on the human resources side, you'll see that there's about 15 best practices here, and things like code of conduct, role descriptions, setting up processes around training, all the handbooks, all the materials, safety manuals, everything that you need essentially A to Z to run a company is established in this system. So this is a very, very powerful database, and it will grow over time, and as best practices change, so too will the site. But remember, there's always a video, there's always a set of documentation that explains how to implement step by step, and there's always the access to the templates and the materials. And so there are thousands and thousands of hours of work that have been pre-done, so the creative and the hard work for you is essentially done. What you have to do is take it, download it, customize it, and put it in place. If you have questions, use the Ask the Expert system or Ask the Consultant system, and we've had lots of activity on that. It's a very popular function. The search and the Ask the Expert Consultant function typically are the two most popular areas. So with that, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to click on the help screen, and as always, Ask the Expert or Ask the Consultant is something that you can do, even if it's how to use the site. That's fine.